Okay, hello. I haven't streamed for art for a bit. I haven't streamed much at all because I've been sick. But I am now well again, hopefully, mostly. And I thought I would at least do a quick stream today. So I'm going to be working on painting this weird looking hellhound. This hellhound is based on Pharaoh or Anubis hounds, which are Egyptian, so it's a little different looking. And I thought it'd be cool to give it wings, play something a little different. And this is for beverage beasts. So the idea is this is kind of a whiskey themed hellhound that we're going to play off the idea of like hair of the dog and those sorts of things. So I thought whiskey deserved a pretty tough looking critter. Um, so I'm just going to work on trying to get him painted and hopefully get that done in half an hour to an hour. And we'll see if I'm up for more after that. Probably not. We'll probably just do this one today and go from there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want him to have kind of a weird outer glow around him. So I'm going to paint that because I'm going to use watercolor. So I have to do the light part first. So I'm going to go ahead and paint the glowing part. I'm using a combo of yellow green and cerulean blue to make a sort of blue green glow around him. And I'll go ahead and zoom this in a little more, I think. So yeah, because it's watercolor, I'm going to do kind of my latest colors first. I still have a way to kind of do non-transparent colors for some parts of this as needed, but I really want him to have a creepy green-blue glow around him. So that's the plan. And I actually got to go to the store and buy us food today, which was good because being sick kind of messed up everything for us this last week. I could only work a couple hours a day on some days, and then I was doing half days, so glad to kind of be back. I actually got all these guys inked who are my last 5 pictures for the book. So they're all set for paint. We have this guy, we have an Eldorf, and we have a weird creature that's it's an Irish critter. It's kind of like a leprechaun, but they specifically are a little more booze focused than leprechauns. They're usually drunk somewhere in wine cellars or pub basements. So I have a whole bunch of stuff like that. I've got to add color to, but because I did them all in ink, it's not too much work to add color. Hopefully you guys can kind of see what I'm doing here. Let's see. Need to my light's glaring a little. Not a lot I can do about that. All right. See if I can. Our settings look okay. All right. Well, hopefully it makes sense. So yeah, he's going to be very dark, almost black himself, with certain areas that come through like red eyes and things like that. So we'll start with the outer glow, and then we're going to paint some of the redder areas, and then we're going to work on his darker colors. But I've done Hellhounds for other projects, and I really wanted this one to be a little bit different. And I thought, there's all these winged cats. Why don't we do a winged hellhound and base it on a pharaoh hound, they actually are kind of a little silly looking almost in the face. So I wanted to take that and kind of flip it around so it'd be creepy. But that'd be fun. And these are sometimes also called Anubis hounds, I think, or they're slightly similar variations of a breed. I was trying to figure that out. The internet was a little confusing on that point. Um, and they're called Anubis hounds because that's what Anubis, god of the dead, is sort of based on, like the way his head is designed. It's based on a jackal, but also on these guys. So that'd be cool to kind of do a hellhound playing with like the god of the dead idea and come up with something cool and a little bit different. And they're a bit lankier, like greyhounds would be. So. And I'm probably going to go pretty dark for the background on this. Maybe even black. We'll see. So this glow is going to end up being important. We'll see if I leave the lighter background or feel like it needs that black background. And I don't know if we're going to get much of anybody watching because it's a weird time of day during the week. I think most people are back at work, but then who knows with other time zones. I didn't really mention for sure that I'd be streaming, so I will definitely be streaming on Wednesday, which is my Wednesday witchy hour at 6 Mountain Standard Time, for sure. And I figured I would just try to get back on the streaming horse and do a little bit today. I at least have a cool video you guys can watch of this, if nothing else. I'm not too worried about overlapping a little bit of the hound with the glow because I'm going to paint him anyway. He's going to be a bit darker, so it won't really matter. Alright. Kitten is being a little difficult today. Even though they had snacks, so. Okay, so hellhounds are usually either done with this blue-green, which I'm doing for the outer glow. Sometimes they glow with that, but more often they glow with hellfire. So to do that, I'm going to start with yellow, and then we're going to add the red after. So anywhere that that glow should be happening, so around the eyes, kitten. Have a spray bottle here for the kitten in case she tries to get into mischievous things that she should not. She was all settled down earlier too, so of course as soon as I start to stream, she's acting up. And I'm gonna just bring this part that's kind of glowing out for now, because I want those areas to have kind of a fiery glow. And then once we add the darker color, it should look cool. Okay. Other glowing areas is like most of his chest. And now they're playing weird games. Our kittens. Just fun. So yeah, the important thing, and I showed this doing a fire dragon painting on stream, is to do all this awesome yellow color first, and then selectively add the red so that you'll get really good kind of glow where you want it. I think it's on his body only because I don't really know that his wings are gonna have. Maybe we'll do some of these tatters here as having some glow showing through too. That might be cool. So yeah, right now it looks weird, but it will make sense once the other colors are going in. Don't think about jumping up here, kid. I will hurt you. Why they're acting all hungry? I gave them snacks. Maybe I gave them snacks too early. Maybe we'll have a little bit in here. I can always paint over anything that's not really working with the glowing part. So, hey, kitten, no. That was our older kitten. Okay, but the wings on the inside really don't need to have much of a glow. They really have a glow that comes from them versus like from here that comes from inside the hound. So, and technically speaking, I shouldn't have made his nose black because this is kind of like a skull nose. This should actually be yellow glow too. So I have my watercolor on nice and thick. I can paint over that, and I can even use some gouache here if I need to. I have iced coffee so that I can stay awake. Because I think it's already been a long day. But like I said, this kind of painting is not really time consuming because I already did a lot of the work in ink. Yes, kitten, we hear you. So now I am adding some red. And get us some nice intense red. But I want to make sure I leave just a little bit of that yellow showing through so that we get a nice deep glow. And if you see weird color changes, you can see the kitten behind me is messing with my curtains. Okay. That's a good start. That was a weird lot of flickering. I don't know why I did that. Huh. Never know if that flickering is just something I see on my end or if it shows up in stream. I have tried all kinds of things with the camera, and I actually think it's a Twitch issue because I'm using Twitch Studio. So I should probably switch to using something else to stream, but I haven't really had the time to get it set up to my satisfaction yet. you see already how this looks kind of glowy and cool. So when I come in with my even darker colors, it should really make it pop out. So right now it looks kind of weird, but it will make sense later. Hello. Guess you probably hear one of our kitties in the background. That one making the racket is Stormageddon. She is our small cat, but she has a very big set of lungs. I'm trying to do this mostly in watercolor, but I might need to use some gouache if glowing stuff doesn't quite work once we're doing stuff. No, it's it's not a dragon at all. It is a hellhound, and it is not based on a coyote. Coyote actually don't have ears like this at all. It's based on a particular type of hound that is found in Egypt. It's called a pharaoh hound or an Anubis hound, for the reason that they have big ears resembling jackals, which is what the god Anubis, who's the god of the underworld, what his head is. So I wanted to do a different sort of hellhound, so I based it on something a little bit different. And he's going to be much darker. This is just going to be all the areas that are glowing, so it looks really weird when you paint it this way, but you have to do these colors first and then go do the darker colors so that you're not ending up smearing black into your nice light colors that are the glowing parts. So yeah, it looks weird, but it'll look cool when it's done. This is for Beverage Beast. It's a little bit of a play on the expression hair of the dog, which if you've ever experienced a hangover, you understand what that phrase is about. So he's actually going to be very much tied to whiskey, and there are a lot of actual Egyptian brands of whiskey. I've been doing some research on this, so I think this will work quite well in the book. Yeah, I'm trying to get. Will you stop, kitten? They're getting hungry. Trying to get a variety of additional creatures that are not just dragons or fairies into the last 5 things in the book. So we're doing some really weird ones. There's a leprechaun-esque creature from Irish mythology that I'm really excited to put in there. They're basically really similar to leprechauns. Sometimes they get mixed up with them, but they're much bigger boozers than leprechauns are. So that's going in, and there's a very drunken ale dwarf going in, which is really fun because I haven't gotten to do a very traditional dwarf in a long time, let alone a drunken one. So that one's really fun. Just deepening my red. It's kind of drying a little lighter than I want. And my yellow here is an issue, so we're just going to blot that out for right now. I'm probably going to need to use some gouache to get the nose the way I want it, but kitten. This is why I have a spray bottle here. We're trying to teach our kitten to chill. I don't know what she's. Usually, if we give them a snack, they're very chill, but for right now, I guess I didn't give them a big enough snack. Trying to get them to get used to being fed a little bit later. Alright. So, wondering what I want to do black for some of it, but it's not going to be completely black. And I want to do kind of blue in some areas, as weird as that sounds, for certain things like inside the ears and probably the wings. So I'm going to put kind of some blue base in here, and then I'm going to paint black on top of it. And it will come out looking cool, I promise. It just looks really weird at this point. It looks like I'm using the strangest colors for this guy. But this is all about what colors are going to be showing through once he's all painted. It's a little dark there, but I'll thin out. There we go. Yeah, unfortunately, I can't just like finish up the face and show you guys because the paint here I'm doing has to dry pretty well before I can do all of the shadows and highlights that I have planned. So right now it's just going to look very strange. We got 3 or 4 people watching. I hope you guys are having a good afternoon or evening, depending on where you're at. Just doing a quick little painting stream and then hopefully going to get to relax. I've been kind of working overtime to try to catch up on stuff since I've been sick so much this year. It kind of has eaten into all my free time, but I actually did a game stream the other day. I was really proud of myself. And I've been playing Sims Eco Living, I think is the expansion. And then I'm planning to stream The Path of Exile, the next league, when it comes out, because they're doing a cool new league. So, planning on that. We'll see how that goes. Yes, I hear you, kitten. I think I can't see you down there. Spraying her, but it's just with water. Trying to train our kitten not to be so difficult. So yeah, this looks really kind of like a weird rainbowy blue dog right now, but it'll be cool. Also have a 2-headed blue mouse and a weird elephant creature that are being painted for the book that tie into things people say and they see when they're drunk in folklore. So once his face is dry, it's getting there. Most of the time I don't use a lot of black. This is one of the few cases where I am going to use some. Very carefully and selectively because I don't want to lose my ink drying. And I'm also going to be putting some highlights back in to finish this guy up for sure, but he's got to get quite a bit darker here for him to be nice and creepy. And we'll build some nice white highlights on him. I feel like it's starting to look scary. I really don't think you're going to want to meet this guy. I mean, hellhounds are never something that you want to meet. They're kind of terrifying. And watercolor tends to dry a little lighter than when you paint it. So I'm going to go pretty dark with some of this black, and it should dry a little lighter. Hopefully you guys can sort of see the process and the end goal here. And I'm definitely going to be bringing some highlights and things back in. We're going to use some gouache to finish it up, but I wanted to get my base painting going here. Tried to leave most of the highlights, but, well, most of the glowing areas, but there's definitely areas that are going to need some highlights and work in there. I would not want to meet one of these guys. So I did a more traditional Hellhound, and I'm trying to think. I think it's in fire dragons and other rare ember creatures because that is it is considered a fire creature because they're basically powered by hellfire, filled with hellfire, whichever combo you want to think of it as. Now he's starting to look scary. So yeah, this part of the chest here that looks all blue and funny will definitely look less silly as I get all my nice black shades in here. And it should end up looking like he's kind of glowing. Let's hope so. From the lighter areas that we already put in. And hopefully everybody's hanging in there. Stuff's been really weird if you're in the Southwest, like I am. I'm in Arizona, you know that we have a heck of a lot of fires going on in southern Arizona right now. There's two burning pretty near to Tucson. It's not evacuation of any of me or anyone else kind of in the immediate area, but they are fairly bad in that they're burning a lot of land. One of them I know is up to 1,700 acres, and it's a very windy day today, so I'm sure that's really not going to help. And they actually just started because of lightning. We had lightning without a lot of rain, which is not uncommon as we start to get into monsoon season, but don't actually have monsoons yet. Thank you. I'm working on a Egyptian-inspired hellhound, so he's kind of inspired by Anubis and pharaoh hounds, which I didn't know was a until I looked up weird hounds because I wanted to do something different than a traditional hellhound. Hope you're doing well. I felt bad. I kind of just missed everybody's streams and missed kind of streaming on and off the last. Oh, I don't know. I did one tiny game stream, but I really just have not been streaming because I didn't feel well. But I'm a lot better today. So I have a huge painting I have to start penciling. We have kind of a very rough layout of where the characters are going to be and what poses they're going to be in. That's been approved, and then I have to draw it all out in a really like this is an 8 by 10 painting, and the painting I have to draw out is a 20 by 30, so it's really big. Yeah, I'm feeling a lot better. I actually like pretty much got over stuff Friday, but the allergies and all the fires. It's so dry, it's so windy. We have fires going. The smoke is because of the direction of the wind today now blowing into town, and even when you keep the windows closed and everything, a little bit of that stuff is gonna get to you, and it's pretty nasty. um, but I feel like a human again. I'm not sick anymore. The virus is totally gone, and I followed all of the proper safety protocols the CDC outlines, where it's like 7 to 10 days from when you get sick before you can go out, and you have to have had a minimum of 3 days with no fever or coughing, which I never got coughing. I only had very mild fever, but I still don't know if I had the virus or a random virus. They tested Daniel, but they haven't gotten back to us with test results, so we basically have no idea. My kitten is very hungry. I think she's mad at me because I filled their food storage containers with new food and didn't feed them. I think that's what's going on. This should be making a cool glowing looking effect. Let's hope so. We're putting all the light colors in first and then painting around them. This works really well for like fire dragons and lava dragons and things like that too. Trick is I don't want to lose too much of the detail of my original drawing by making him too dark, which is why I'm doing it as like a blue first and then adding some black. But I think I'm also going to kind of gouache and kind of pull out some of the details some more, and I actually think he needs more shadows here. Give him a little more of a deeper shadow there. Sometimes when stuff dries, it just lightens up too much with watercolor. You have to go back in and bring it back down a little darker. So the other piece that I don't think I'm gonna have time to paint today, but this is the other one I was really happy with. This is the Eldorf for the book. He's a little tipsy, so that should be a fun one to do. I don't ever get to do like really traditional dwarves and things like that, so I was like, I want to do that for this book. That should be fun. So, kind of having fun with the last, I think it's the last 5 creatures for the book. And the book is already more than half laid out and written, and the writing is pretty easy. It takes me about 10 minutes a page to do the writing, so I'm getting there. And we are going to Kickstarter launch on the 15th. It has been approved. I just want to add a video to the Kickstarter. So I might take clips from some of my videos here to show kind of the actual painting happening. Yes, Stormy, we hear you. I think I'm going to take about a 3-minute break and go feed the horde so that they quiet down since they're really hungry. It's about their dinner time. Yes, Stormy, we know. She just jumped up here like, feed me. All right. So let me get this to a good point here where it can dry. All right. I will be back in like 3 minutes or so. Okay, the horde of cats is now all contentedly munching. By horde, I mean horde. We have a lot of cats. And they just all got cat food today, so they're very happy. See, it might look weird to put blue down first, but it makes this cool. It takes it away from, I don't know, just being black. So kind of this cool undertone. I figured it'd be fun to work on some of these little guys on the stream because they're pretty quick paintings. Usually it takes me about an hour to do color on something if I've already spent an hour or two doing the drawing and inking. Just for these little guys. They don't have a background, so they're a little easier. Not quite as complicated as some of the other paintings I've been working on. When I was sick, I was working on a really cool vampire painting where it is a female vampire transforming into a bat for a future project that so far only my Patreon subscribers know about. And I was a little slow because I was sick, but I also put way more detail. That took me 6 or 7 hours at least. It wasn't even that big a painting. I have one project about to launch on Kickstarter and a couple of other cool projects planned for this year or next year, depending on. I don't know if I'm doing a Kickstarter this fall or not, because normally I skip Kickstarters in the fall. We maybe do something for the holidays, but I don't usually do an October, November workload that's this heavy because I usually have a lot of events. But it's kind of up in the air right now if we're doing the events. Some have really kind of scheduled and pushed ahead with the scheduling and say they're going to happen, but I think until we get maybe to July, August, we won't really know. And the numbers situation here is confusing because, of course, our numbers are spiking, but we're also doing a lot more testing than we were. So it's well, are we just testing more people then? And we're probably going to have waves of spikes. So I'm still wearing a mask when I go out, and I'm not going out except to do food shopping. I mean, I take walks and things when I'm not sick because I have a neighborhood that's not too busy, so I can do that. Our movie theater is reopening this week, but we're kind of holding off on all that till at least July to kind of see what happens. That's the one thing I really miss is going to the movies. It's kind of usually our day off relaxing thing, but I got us a couple seasons of things we need to catch up on, so we're all caught up on The Flash and Supergirl, and I am very sad because I didn't realize the seasons were both cut short. I don't know if they didn't finish filming or just didn't finish editing. I think they didn't finish editing because it'd be weird to still have been filming that late, but they're normally 23, 24 episodes, and they were 19 episodes, and they end in a weird place, and you're just well, that sucked. But we've been watching the new season of Death in Paradise. Well, to us, it's new. It finally just came out for streaming, and I am a big fan of Death in Paradise. If you've never seen it, it's basically like a really silly murder mystery show like Murder, She Wrote or any of those shows, but it's all filmed on an island in the Caribbean that is kind of a joint French-British island, which is actually not that uncommon. So I think we'll still get movies coming out this summer. I think they're just waiting to see with movie theaters reopening, are they gonna stay open? I think everybody's just sort of waiting to see what's going on. Actually, with New York City, they're reopening a lot more because they got hit really hard, but then their cases fell off a lot faster. Places like Arizona, we kind of handled things. We did get our curve lower, but then it takes a lot longer. So I don't know. We'll see. I don't even. Everyone's like, "Do you get scared when you get sick?" And I'm like, I worried the second time we get sick because we were at that point we were under stay at home. But now we're at the 5th time we've gotten sick and the second virus this year, and I'm like, if I'm not really sick and I don't have to go to the hospital, I'm not gonna worry about it. We get checked out, and then we just wait in the time period that we need to wait, and we see. But I was very thankful to be able to go get groceries this morning because we were pretty much out of everything. So, I mean, I already spend so much time at home because I work from home. Um, I miss the movies, occasionally going out dancing, things like that. But, a lot of times I don't get to go out that much because I'm pretty busy. And then it's sort of weirdly polarized. I'm either at home doing stuff or I'm like running around to signings for like a whole weekend and then I'm like back home again. So, it just feels like our off season from conventions and signings is obviously a lot longer this year, and we'll just have to see what happens. And there's been a lot of like interesting debate because like our local Comic Con has had, they're basically looking into things and trying to figure out if they can happen. They usually happen the first weekend of November and so forth. Now, the weekend after that is our science fiction fantasy convention. That is happening because it's a lot smaller. It's only about 500 people tops. It's usually more like 300. And the panels are pretty small. So even if they still have to do social distancing there and some other precautions, and I guess we'll see come November what's going on with that. But I still got like my guest invite to that, and that's one of my favorite events. So I know that's happening. Don't know if the reptiles show us in October is happening. They rescheduled our Anime Con to then be like the weekend after the Sci-Fi Fantasy Con in November. So it's like if Tucson Comic Con happens, it'll be 3 back-to-back weekends and then Thanksgiving. So that'll be interesting. No idea if our big Anime Con in Phoenix is happening. That's supposed to be in September, and they moved our Phoenix Comic Con, which is now called Fan Fusion, to September, but I don't do that one anymore. It's just not cost effective for me to sit there for 4 days, even though I make some money, because I always have so much stuff to do at home online for projects. Like I can make more in like one day on a Kickstarter than I would do in like the week of prep and sitting at the convention or whatever. So financially it doesn't make sense, and fun wise it got too tiring and overcrowded to be fun for me. And then my fans couldn't even find me there the last couple times I did it, so I haven't been doing it. I wouldn't mind doing panels there as a guest and not vending, maybe doing a signing if they ever invite me back for that. I used to do panels there, so we'll see. But I don't think it was good an idea for them to move it to September. I have a feeling they did it based on the availability of the convention center in Phoenix. But the deal in the Southwest is we have like a few major comic book conventions, and they have put themselves, I believe, the weekend after the huge one in Salt Lake City. And I don't do that one anymore either. I used to go around and do all these conventions, and now I just don't. I do the local stuff, but I'm too busy. Yeah, we really don't know with some of them what's going on. Like, obviously, the summer ones are kind of up in the air. Um, I tend to think definitely smaller events will be okay by November, but it depends on what, a lot of the time, it depends on what the venues, the hotels, or the convention centers decide. And I think they're all just trying to, to figure that out. So I guess we'll see. Um, Things have mellowed a bit, like, thankfully, because some stuff is reopened, people who are not good with social distancing and are bored and wanting to go out and would just go to the grocery store every day because they thought of that as a loophole. Those people have found other things to do now, so they are not overcrowding the grocery store. So that was nice. It really wasn't busy when I was there. So, well, I think some of the conventions will probably happen. I think overall big events will kind of rethink about how they're handling crowds, line control, seating, spacing, things like that. Um, and what they want to do. I've stopped doing the big ones. The only big one I still do is Tucson Festival of Books. And honestly, I just sit in the same tent all day, so I don't even go dealer with the crowds. People come in to see us. And that did get canceled like 3 days before because it was like right when stay at home started, I think 2 weeks after that. So I am booked into that for next year, and we should have it by then. And my other favorite convention, like I said, is our science fiction fantasy convention, and that is still happening. And it shouldn't be a problem for it to happen because it's a smaller show. And honestly, I'm one of the younger guests and attendees there. Most of us are in our 30s are on the younger edge of the the crowd there. So people are a little better about social distancing. I don't want to put down young folks, but there's some really dumb teenagers out there who just think I'm young, it won't affect me, and I don't have to do anything. And I know all teenagers are doing that, but that show doesn't really draw a lot of those unless they're there with their parents. So, and that just it's a very special event to me. It's been here. This is, I think, I want to say it's our 47th year. I think last year, yeah, last year was 46. This is 47. So it's such an old show, and it's, if you're a creative person, it's to me the most fascinating event you can go to. There's a number of events I love here in Tucson, but that one for my creative side is my favorite. I love Festival of Books, but I don't get to do anything at Festival of Books other than sit there and sign books for 2 days because it's too busy. So um, I don't even vend at our science fiction fantasy convention. I do some of the signings, and I just do panels and basically go get drunk with a bunch of other creators, which is awesome. So, but a big part of it is, and I don't know if he ever watches my streams, but shout out to Joe who organizes all of the panel topics. I'm pretty sure it's Joe who does that. Um, because he tries to never pick the same thing twice or something you will have attended in another convention. So, as somebody who is a guest at conventions and also enjoys other creators' panels, the fact that it's not like the same 10, oh, it's a general panel on this science fiction topic or this fantasy topic in writing or in art, the fact that it is something unique every time is really, really cool and thought provoking. Yeah, a lot of places have small ones. We have, I think, one of the oldest ones in the country that has survived and is still good. I've tried some other older ones and they haven't been that good. I don't know what it is with ours. We've just gotten very, very lucky. Uh, Part of it is that for some reason, a lot of fairly famous people settle in Tucson on the down low. So we all get to kind of hang out. I've had just some really cool experiences with some pretty big writers there. But yeah, to me, what sets that one apart are the panel topics, and the weird attention to details. The hotel that we're at does drinks themed for all of the major guests, often as jokes. um, I don't know. It's just a really different experience. I go every year, and I never end up walking away without at least one new friend. Last year, my boyfriend and I became pretty good friends with um, kind of a horror writer in Phoenix who also runs a really cool podcast on horror movies, and it's just a really fun guy. So that was a cool friendship that came out of that for me. I actually got to know a bunch of the horror guys there, and I'm not a horror. I say as I'm painting the creepy thing. I'm not really a horror creator, but I seem to be painting a lot of creepy things recently for not being a horror creator. Uh, but it's cool. You get to some a different experience, and when you, I don't know. I used to live in LA. I've done like the really big shows, and I just don't enjoy them. You're never really gonna get to talk to any of those big famous people. The panels are gonna have thousands of people, and now they can't do that because obviously social distancing would be an issue. So I don't know how the big shows are gonna handle it. So I think the small ones are gonna shine. I think Tucson Comic Con, if they can figure out how to make it work, they're a big show, but they're not huge. They're usually between 15 and 20,000 people. So I think they could work out some ways to make it work, or some smaller series of events or something. So I'm just looking forward to when we can kind of be back at the local bookstores for author events because they've been really cool and amazing. And I know a lot of the event coordinators at those bookstores, and it's been kind of sad not to spend time with them. Our local pub that I was painting, we have a number of local pubs, but our favorite local pub is Surly Wench that I was painting the Creepy Mermaid for in channel here on Twitch last week, the week before I got sick. Um, they've been closed, and they've actually been being as positive as possible. They did a fundraiser for the staff, and they took the opportunity of being closed to do things they planned to do that didn't cost money. So like, or didn't cost a lot of money, a lot of repainting of the bar and things like that. But we really miss them, so nice to have those local places. Like some of them are allowed to open, they're just taking their time anyway. Some of them already have. So, hey, this guy's turning out nice and glowy and creepy, just like I planned. I think the first time I tried to do a glowy thing like this too. Aw. Yeah, we have a couple. We live near, almost walking. Well, pretty much is walking distance, except it's too hot right now. From a pub called the Canyon Crown. Um, that's like a British pub. That's great food and drink, but for events and things, I'm a fan of the Surly Wench. That's run by some of the most amazingly nice people I've ever met. That's where I met my boyfriend, and they do full like DJ nights. So I know a lot of the DJs from there. We've been having fun watching them on Twitch. In fact, I think Vamp Feline is going to be DJing. She usually DJs Monday nights. She does, oh gosh, the noir. Oh, I can never remember. It's her kitty themed stream, um, where her cat has a cam while she's DJing too, which is pretty cool. She usually does that Monday nights. So the DJs have kind of been keeping up with this, but um, yeah, this early one has like the best food. They have great tacos. They have great hangover tots, which sounds weird, but they're basically like the best hangover tater tot food you could ever get. um, really good drinks, amazing bartenders, and then the whole place is. It looks kind of like I want to say like almost like Tim Burton decorated it, but it's not quite that like it's more believable and natural than that. It's just I think things they've collected over the years. In fact, the creepy mermaid I was painting was inspired by the mermaid skeleton that they have over the bar in the parlor. And they have like creepy old paintings and gothic frames and skeletons and Godzilla wearing a Christmas sweater. I like that part. So there's always like I can go there for years and then notice things I've never noticed before, because they have so much weird stuff sort of hidden away. So it's a neat place, and most of the clientele is really nice. And a lot of the events I go to, they charge just like $3 to $5 in cover, which is actually great because it kind of deters the. I don't want to say this to sound bad, but the drunken frat boy crowd from the university, they tend to go to the places without cover that are more like frat bars, and that one's a little more of like a pirate pub goth alternative bar. So I know I have a lot of friends from that. In fact, most of the friends I have in town now are from there, from places like our giant chain of used bookstores here. I'm friends with all the managers there, and they're really good people. So kind of been keeping tabs on everybody as much as I can throughout. That's all being at home. But at the same time, I'm still not planning to go anywhere till at least July. Even though there's like patio seating open in places, I feel like I would only want to go out if I could like kind of just hang out and chill and paint at a coffee shop or whatever. And I'm not really going to feel comfortable doing that if there's limited seating, and it'd just be weird. So I'm uh, I'm just kind of waiting it out for now. And like I said, since I work from home, it hasn't been hugely different for me. Aside from us getting sick a lot. And I'm just so thankful I got groceries today. I was like, I will buy 2 gallons of milk. I do not want to run out of milk. And then I wanted, so like, kind of my guilty snack are gummies. And I usually get gummies from Trader Joe's, because we can go shopping for like 8 or 9 days. Kind of get stuff we could order. Well, you can't get delivery from Trader Joe's. You can get it from some other places, Safeway. You can get it from Whole Foods. So we were kind of doing that and takeout. And I had already gone grocery shopping right before we got sick, so we weren't that bad off. But I was like, I really want gummies. I was ordering some other stuff, some ramen and other stuff online, and I was like, oh, here's a good brand of gummies that has great reviews. It says they have 12 different flavors. They're not too sweet. I'll try those. Yeah, I ended up throwing them out. They were like some of the most artificially flavored, oversweetened gummy things I've ever had. So I'm very happy that I was able to get my regular gummies today. I got gummy bears and I got some of their Scandinavian swimmers. I think part of it is that like the Trader Joe's ones, they use more natural flavoring, and they use. I hate being wasteful with food, but like these were like so sweet they'd give you like a headache or a toothache if you ate like 3 gummy bears. Like they're really. I like kind of like the pineapple flavor, but most of the others it was like bad cough syrup flavor. It was so bad. So the Trader Joe's ones, they have like some little 99-cent packs of them that are like mini gummy bears, and they're fruit juice sweetened, and they're kind of tart a little bit. And so they're, I don't know, once you've had fruit juice sweetened ones, if you get ones that not only are sweetened with like sugar or corn syrup, but they put too much in, it's a lot. So yeah, I was just like, you know what? I'm not gonna kill myself eating something that's gonna give me diabetes when. So experiment failed, but on the plus side, we found a new restaurant we really like for takeout, which we're trying to be good and not order from much anymore because they have killer food that's probably going to kill us if we eat too much of it. Not to mention killer wallets. So, but yeah, they do coastal themed food from like all along the coast. So it's casual. So it's basically like a mix of Caribbean flavors and also Mexican flavors, and then like your standard sort of beach barbecue stuff. So like they have really good barbecue burgers, and they have like sort of Caribbean versions of Cubanos, if that makes sense. Like it was a really weird mix, but were like, let's try this place, and they were really really good. So I guess they've been in Tucson for a while, but they aren't that close to us, and they weren't on DoorDash or Grubhub until recently, and then I discovered them and we gave it a try, and so far we've ordered from them twice, and we love all their food. So yeah, they have line management here if they get really crowded, but since our stay-at-home orders switched to like a go out cautiously order, I can't think of what the actual name of the order is. There haven't been lines anymore, and when there were lines, they had them out of the sun, and there'd be a line of 10 people, but you'd be through the line in about 2 minutes. It wasn't that bad. But I know in like San Francisco, New York, more major cities, they're having more trouble getting stock and also doing line control at places. So, kind of glad that I don't live in San Francisco, New York, or LA anymore. Like, I was like, of all the places to live, I think I'm in one of the better spots. And bizarrely, amidst all of the craziness, our housing market is booming. Like I don't know what's going on. You know what? It's probably everyone moving. Like they want to get away from those bigger metro areas. So all of a sudden, like we're a city, we're like a million people, but that's surrounding metro and everything. So we're not that big. And we're pretty spread out. We have a lot of parks and a lot of nature preserves. So it really doesn't, it feels like you live in a small town. There's very minimal traffic. I mean, compared to like if you lived in LA and New York, San Francisco, those kind of cities. And I love it. So I was like kind of surprised. I looked up our estimated house value and it had skyrocketed, and I was like, "What's going on?" And then I read an article in the paper that said that our housing market is like doing really well in Tucson. So that's weird. So who knows? Yeah. Oh, you were there on a Friday. Yes. Do not go shopping on Fridays, especially to Trader Joe's or Costco. The best time to actually go to Trader Joe's, they told me this, and I was planning to do this, and then I got sick. They actually said if you go very first thing when they open, Sunday mornings, very few people hit them up first thing Sunday mornings. Like later Sunday mornings, yeah, but not first thing. And I usually go like weekday or Sunday, but I usually go kind of first thing and try to avoid some of it. But yeah, they said either do that or do like weekdays. Because yeah, Fridays are weird. Fridays have been weird since before we had quarantines and diseases. Fridays are just always weird at stores. And I've heard a lot of horror stories from people. This is really weird. So out here we have different grocery chains than we had back east. And when I lived back east, we didn't even have Trader Joe's, but I guess they're there now. Um, but we have Safeway, Bash's, Albertsons, and Fry's here. And years ago, I had a lot of bad experiences with a couple of different Fry's in Phoenix and LA. Like, I'd buy milk that was dated like a week or two away, and the milk would already be spoiled. Like, they hadn't refrigerated it properly, and a couple of different Fry's. And I don't know. I just got such bad vibes. I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to go to Fry's. So coincidentally, we don't live that close to a Fry's. We live close to two different Safeways. So we've been going to those. And we're not really in the downtown Tucson area. We're like 20, 30 minutes kind of away from that stuff. So a little, not on the outskirts, but but not downtown. So we haven't had a huge problem. They've had lines when necessary. They've actually put in one-way aisles at Safeway, so each aisle only goes one direction when you walk it, which really helps to try to like thin people out, I guess. Um, so I've just heard all these horror stories, and all the horror stories are from people going to three places: Costco, though I guess they've really like cracked down, like you have to wear a mask to go to Costco now, and those sorts of things. But like Costco, Fry's, I've heard of people just being really rude and pushy and crowding at Fry's, and then Walmart has apparently been really, really bad. But I feel like Walmart lays out their aisles in such a way that they have a lot of blind corners. So I've always hated shopping there. Like I'll go to Target over a Walmart just because I feel like I'm more likely to have someone run into me with a cart at Walmart than Target. So I don't know. I think I was listening to some of the horror stories and I was like, that's interesting because I haven't had a really bad time. And I think it has to do with the part of town I live in and obviously the part of the country I live in, and then kind of which stores I'm going to, and I don't know why, but um, I just happened to pick ones that were a little safer. uh, so who knows? I did think it was funny they showed these like stats of like which are the worst hoarding states, and of course the East Coast got away with like not very many, and then like the Southwest and Midwest were a lot worse. But I was like, now wait a minute, I grew up on the East Coast. The East Coast, you're likely to get snowed in, so you already usually have supplies for a few weeks put away in the winter. You have basements, you have attics, you have places to store some extra canned goods and stuff. Out here, we don't have basements or attics. So and people just they don't store as much away for the winters like where I grew up, because I grew up in upstate New York. So I think that that has to be a contributing factor to like, well, if you already had stuff put away for the winter, then you probably weren't as going to be as much of a hoarder when things went crazy. That said, I have no idea what people are doing with all that toilet paper that they got. Like, they won't have to buy toilet paper for 10 years. Good job, guys. The power of random rumors on the internet. But yeah, I try to focus on like the fact that hey, I've gotten sick a bunch of times, but I haven't had to go to the hospital. Um, I've managed to keep the business going. Like it's tough. I have to work extra hard when I get sick and have to make up time. But you know, there are things that could be worse. I could live in a worse place, and yeah, I mean, I stock like the one thing I immediately stocked up on. We already had toilet paper, and I got a little more when I could, and I've kind of made sure we've kept it in stock, but it hasn't been an issue. The one thing I've kind of kept stocked up on was we immediately got like some paper towels, not too many because it's just two of us, and cat food. I feel like kind of made sure to stay like a little more ahead in the cat food than I would, but because of everything, I had to switch brands for them, something that was easier to get online and faster, and actually they like it better and it's cheaper. So hey, I end up saving $2 a week on cat food, so that's not a terrible thing. And we could stock like 40 can packs, so it's a little better. Just waiting for this guy to dry, and then I'm going to use some gouache to kind of pop some more details out. I think I'm going to use, I'm just getting all my, so I have a separate palette for my gouache. I got the same palette. This is going to confuse everyone. I have the same palette. This is what the palettes actually look like new, and got a lot of paint in them. And I actually put a sticker on the outside so I would know which one I'm using. And I'm just going to need some white. I think I'm going to use white and putting it in the middle versus on in the edge, because I'm actually going to mix it with some yellow for some of my highlights here. But yeah, I don't know. I think like if you grow up on the East Coast, you're just more used to stocking. Like, because I grew up in the country there. I was actually there for the Great October Storm, which I do not know if you are old enough to remember, but I believe it was 1986, 87, somewhere in there, where really early in October we got like 3 feet of snow overnight. So I don't know if that's something that you remember, but we were without power for like 2 days, and some people were without power for weeks. It's crazy. So I feel like, we had a gas stove and we melted snow if we needed water. And, cell phones weren't even really a thing yet at that time. So it was an interesting experience. I guess I grew up being more, missed that by a couple of years. Yeah. I grew up being more self sufficient that way. But, um, was thinking about it. I was like, yeah, we definitely always kept, because we were out in the country, kept a little more food around so that wasn't, we had an extra freezer in our basement where we could have frozen hamburger and stuff like that, just because my parents didn't always have the time to get out shopping and things like that. So yeah, rather than just using white for highlights, which I think would be too bright, I'm mixing it with just a little bit of yellow, and I'm using gouache, which is basically a watercolor that is not transparent, so I can kind of paint in my highlights. And like I said, this should have been. I made the mistake of filling this in black with ink when I was drawing him because I was thinking he'd have a skull nose, and then realized that you would actually see a glow here. So I'm going to have to paint this with yellow, and I'm going to use a little bit of red to fix it. Yeah, hurricanes, blizzards. Well, we have monsoons here. The thing is, they last only maybe an hour or two tops. They're very, very fast. They're basically the same thing as a thunderstorm or like a really bad hurricane there, but they're like compacted down to a quarter of the time. So they're very, very fast and very crazy. You can have like inches of water build up in a matter of 5 minutes. So if you're like driving and one happens, you just stop somewhere in a parking lot and you wait for it to pass if it's a really bad one. And they have all these signs that say, do not enter these areas when flooded. And then there's always some dumb people who think because they have like four-wheel drive or something, they can go in those areas and they get stuck. And sometimes they get washed away and they do not live because they're like not, I mean, they have these huge signs like don't enter and if there's any water or flooding, but you know, there's always going to be some people who do that. Oh, so you had like a real tornado. We rarely had those where I grew up, but I mean, the weird thing about monsoons is they happen. Sometimes you'll get them almost every day, but they haven't really kicked in yet, which is why we're having a problem because we got kind of all the lightning and thunder from one and no rain. And the lightning started, I mentioned this earlier in the stream, it started, I think, at least two, possibly three major forest fires in the last few days. So I was like, yay, no more virus. My allergies are getting better. Wait, never mind. Now there's smoke blowing into town from a 1,700-acre forest fire up on the mountain. So that's great. Like, we needed another bad thing this year, but at least it's not close enough that they're really evacuating anybody. Like, that's okay. Yeah, there's like three or four different ones going too, and it was the one we had a fire. It took them a couple of days to get out that burned a couple hundred acres a week or two ago, and that was because some idiot didn't do a campfire properly and didn't put it out properly, and they're like really picky about that here. So that's bad. But this was all lightning that started these ones. So this is what I love about combining traditional watercolor, which is transparencies, with um, gouache, where you have these nice solid colors. Is that maybe I should zoom this in for you guys so you can really see what I am doing here on his face. Is that better? Hopefully. So you can get these like really neat highlights. And in past streams, I've done a lot of this with white ink, but now that I have really good gouache, I love to do it with gouache because I can get um, some really nice mixes of color. So like I mixed a nice yellow for this. And if you've used acrylic, it's a lot like a hybrid of like kind of the look of acrylic or oil, but it's more the consistency of watercolor, if that makes sense. I'm a huge fan of it. Um, and until recently, I didn't really feel like there was an affordable one that really worked well, so I hadn't used it for a while, but I found one that I love that wasn't crazy expensive. So I'm basically going to do this to build kind of some of the ink that I had in here, the little details are getting lost. So I'm kind of building some highlights to pop those out and to pop the teeth out with some white here. So yeah, a lot of people think you've got to use like one kind of paint or the other, but these are basically both a form of watercolor, and you can mix them. So you're mixing transparent looking paints with more solid ones, and you end up with some pretty cool looking highlights and things. I think it's a cool way to do it. So the kind I'm using, I was going to say, the kind I'm using at the lid from it right here, I am using the Arteza 24 gouache colors that I got it off Amazon, and I want to say it was like maybe $1 or two, was maybe $24, $25. And weird thing is their watercolor is crazy. Some of their other paints, their watercolor, their acrylic really aren't in my price range, but they had a really good deal on this. So, and it has really good colors, and the tubes are fairly big. I mean, talking like decent size. You're still going to go through them faster than watercolor because you don't dilute it as much. If you want to just use one paint, you can dilute gouache to basically behave like watercolor. But yeah, and a few people told me like last week it was sold out. But yeah, I really like it, and I guess Cassie on her channel when she was trying watercolors was using the Arteza watercolors, but I looked at them and they're quite a bit more expensive than the ones that I use, and I actually really like the ones that I use. So for watercolor brands, I use kind of a mix of three different things. I use I'd say the one, if I have to recommend just one, is Shinhan watercolors, which are a Korean brand. Um, I believe they're Korean. They might be Japanese, but I'm pretty sure they're Korean. Which are really affordable sets. Again, you're not going to spend more than 20 or $30 for a set of like all the colors you could want. I also really like Sakura Koi watercolors, which are another Japanese brand, and again, not expensive. And then I also use just a few colors that cost more from Daniel Smith, which is an American company. They do really big tubes, but you're probably going to pay like $12 or $13 a tube, but you might have to buy one for like two or 300 paintings. I think I buy a tube every year or two of those few colors I like, and I do 25 paintings a month. So some of which are smaller like this and some are more detailed. So here's why I like gouache. If you see on the ear here, I feel like this is a little too, I guess, bold. Just put a little water on my brush while this is still wet, and very carefully you kind of scrub it slightly to blend it in, and you're going to lose some of those hard edges, and it will get more of the appearance of like acrylic or oils, so you can get a softness with them. And these ones in particular blend really, really well. Yeah, I've tried the cheaper sets and I didn't really like them. And when I was in art school, they had us, of course, using like Winsor Newton gouache, which is crazy expensive, and really expensive brushes. I should mention I did a very brief stint in art school. It was actually one class. I took the hardest foundations class they had, and I had an amazing teacher who, at the end of it, told me not to get into student loan debt for the rest of my life, and just to go take non-credit, basically community college classes or whatever classes I needed for the things I needed to learn, but that I did not need to get a degree if I was just looking to do illustration. And I ended up, that was in San Francisco, and I ended up actually in LA going to an industry school where a lot of the guys who design for major sci-fi fantasy films teach. So I don't have a degree, but I got to learn from, we had like the guy who designed the prosthetics for Beast in X-Men, like the actual, he didn't sculpt them, he did all the concept art for what the character was going to be like. He came and talked to our class. I got to go to a lecture with Sid Mead at it, which was really freaking cool before he died. He did all the vehicle designs for Blade Runner, things like that. Like, he's just a really, really cool person. So I feel like for art, you don't always need a degree. I think I had a better experience kind of taking more industry classes. And then I ended up in Tucson because I wanted to take classes in wildlife and botanical illustration. And we have an absolutely amazing non-credit school here. You can get like a certificate from them if you do their full program, which I didn't because I'd already done plenty of foundations drawing classes at other schools, so I didn't need those. But you can go take like weekend workshops or like 5-week workshops where they will bring in real lizards, real rattlesnakes, real seahorses, whatever it is you're you're studying, you get the live animals there, and that's very unusual, and they're actually pretty affordable for that. So I moved here thinking I'd be here for like 2 years to take some classes, and 12-ish years later, I am still here. Um, and yeah, if you look up the Desert Museum in Tucson, that's where I learned that from. And if you ever visit the Southwest, you can just plan to do a weekend workshop there for a couple $100, and you'll learn from people who illustrate for like National Geographic or field guides, and they limit the class sizes. So it's a totally different experience. You learn like all the scientific stuff. We often get to see the whole skeletons of the animals we were painting as well. It's such a cool experience. And honestly, if you're looking to do illustration, people care about your portfolio. They don't really care if you have a degree or not. And I didn't end up in student loan debt, so ended up with a mortgage on a house that I own instead of paying student loans off for a long time. So I'm very thankful to the teacher who said, "Look, you have the drive to do this. You do not need to spend 10 years of your life paying off student loans after you graduate. Just go find the things that you need to learn." And I took a lot of figure drawing classes. That definitely helped. A lot of animal classes. And I do a lot of, when things are open, I will go like draw at the zoo. As I said, we have an amazing reptile show here. And now that I sell there, we actually get to go in before it opens to the public. So I get to go take photos of like the king cobra and stuff like that for reference, which is really cool. And I didn't know this when I moved to Tucson, but Tucson has one of the best reptile shows in the world. It's not real big, but the animals there are very, very rare. I mean, a lot of it's stuff for sale, but then there's also kind of like show and tell animals. And yes, I know, kitten, you already got fed though. Settle down. So like they'll have king cobras and komodo dragons, and you get to actually go take your own photos of them. It's really cool. As an artist, as long as you're okay with reptiles and insects and spiders and things. I mean, the spiders and things are all in cases. They're not out and about, but they have actual chameleons. You can watch color change there. So it's not like the biggest space, but it's really cool. I didn't realize how much stuff Tucson has. I think we kind of fly under the radar, which is fine by me because it's kept it fairly affordable. In fact, if I were buying a house here now, I couldn't afford the house that I'm sitting in. I got very lucky when I got it in 2012. I got it right as the housing market was starting to bounce back. And then the last couple of years, Raytheon has super expanded here. Amazon opened a distribution center, so now we're having like a lot more people who want to live here, which has driven up rental rates and house rates and stuff. And it's crazy. Like, it's crazy. They're saying that like the house is worth like $40,000 more than I got my mortgage for. Like, it has gone up that much in value since 2012. So that's pretty nuts. I couldn't afford like the what the monthly payment would be on it if it were at that price. Yes, Stormy, we hear you. I have no idea why she's meowing. She already got fed. So I think a big thing about doing paintings like this is that they won't necessarily look right. They'll look weird. They'll look like things are too blended in until you get to the part of doing the highlights. It's like that last stage that makes it look cool. Why are you so loud? We call her the smoker cat because she sounded hoarse ever since she was a kitten, and the vet said that that's fine. That's just her voice. She just sounds cranky, and everybody else is chilled out. What's your problem? She was not happy about being sprayed. Poor kitten. Yes, we know, Stormy. We're kind of jealous because we've been home. My boyfriend couldn't go to work obviously because they didn't know. We still don't have a back. We still don't know what we had, but for safety's sake, the doctor was like, "Nope, you're spending at least a week at home," and all that fun stuff. So he's been playing No Man's Sky, which is really cool, and I can watch it for like 5 minutes or watch it for longer if he's like streaming it. I can watch it on my phone, but I can't play it because I get motion sick, so I'm kind of jealous because it's really awesome. It's kind of an endless space exploration game, and I'd maybe be like, oh, it's space, there's planets, whatever, but there's creatures, and the creatures are really cool. I think it has some sort of really cool engine where it generates them, so you get all these unique species. And I'm always like, now I want to do a painting of that weird thing he found on the planet. So he's been exploring space while he's been sick. And if it's still on sale, I definitely, and you're not someone who gets motion sick, I definitely recommend it. I can only play a few games. I got the new Sims pack though, and I have fun with that. I'm on Sims 4, but I've played Sims since the very beginning, so I'm kind of a fan of it. And this pack got mixed reviews kind of before it came out from people who like saw videos of it. They said it didn't seem like it had that much content, but I feel like it actually does. It's just a lot of it is more the stuff you can't visually see. There's more behavioral changes to the game. I guess I don't know. You think like the personality stuff and the way that other Sims behave, because they kind of had to change all of that to make the new eco stuff work. So your neighborhoods in Sims now have eco footprints. Like they can be bad, like if they're industrial, or they can be kind of neutral, or they can be green, which obviously your sim prefers. Most Sims prefer to live in the green ones. Oh, you should definitely check out at least check out videos of No Man's Sky, because it's really cool visually. Yeah, I'm not a huge gamer because of money and motion sickness and time. Um, so I pretty much play like Sims occasionally, and then I play Path of Exile, and I'm kind of taking a break from Path of Exile because there's a new league starting in, I want to say like mid June. Might even be starting right around when I do my Kickstarter launch. So I'm gonna stream that I think when it starts. And Path of Exile is actually free, so it's free unless you want cosmetics. So if you want to support the game, you can get stuff that makes your character look cool, but it doesn't actually make you a better player or make your character any better statistically in the game. And that's the entire way that they fund the game, because people like it that much. I mean, I will fully admit I have, when I've had some extra funds, I've thrown some money their way so I can have a dragon that follows my character around, for obvious reasons. I wanted a dragon, but just too because I really appreciate how they work really closely with their player community. And if you play games like Diablo or Diablo 2, we don't talk about 3. It's terrible, in my opinion. I should really state that's in my opinion. If you played those games kind of back in the day, Path of Exile is kind of a similar game, but it has a great storyline, really great voice acting, really great art. Um, it's a full online player community, so you're playing online with people all over the world. And I'm a creative person, so I love the fact that you can kind of do endless things with it. The way they designed a lot of game systems is like, all right, I've played the warrior and I've done the 3 variations of the warrior and I've done the 3 variations of the mage. Path of Exile isn't like that. You can literally do anything with any character. So people are always coming up with new builds, which is why it's very popular to stream here on Twitch. So yeah, I'm debating. I know they fixed this next one is going to have some changes to like two-handed battle mechanics, but I kind of still want to play a lightning arrow character because I haven't done with lightning. I've done with poison. So it's really cool, and it's completely free if you want to check it out. It's called Path of Exile. It's a small company in New Zealand that makes it actually. And it's interesting if you look at like the bigger companies that do things like Blizzard doing Diablo where they're charging like $60 for a game. They have a lot more people kind of trying to hack things or getting angry at them than I think Path of Exile does, because they're so much working with their player community, to kind of be really creative. And the way they do it is you have your standard game server, where you can make a character and play the character, and you'll always be able to play that character and so forth. But then they have what are called leagues, which is what I'm waiting for the next one to start. And what leagues are is essentially a way for them to beta test new content. So they'll have an idea for a new feature in the game, like the one that's coming out is actually all garden based. So you're going to be able to grow rare plants that come to life and then you can fight them for really unique items or things like that. That's what it sounds like. It sounds really cool. Um, so rather than have the people who are in the main server have to deal with bugs and maybe content that needs to be adjusted for balancing, they do it on a separate server for the league. And so everyone starts a new character there who wants to play it, but you get tasks and goals in the league, and if you do those, you win things for your character. I got some really cool wings for a character in a league. You get basically rewards by doing the challenges, but it lets you try out a new character. So essentially, they're rewarding players for beta testing their new stuff. And once it's all balanced and working right, then they may integrate it into the main game. So if the people playing like kind of the main server don't want to deal with the new content until it's bug free and balanced, they don't have to. But if you're like me and you like to give feedback and try all the new toys right away, and win prizes for hitting goals, you can do that, which I think is such a smart way to do it. So the leagues all have different themes. They're just finishing up Delirium League now, which I did play in. But by the time I started streaming, my character was already kind of high level for that. And I was like, I don't really want to start streaming in like the middle of a character. I'd rather show one from the beginning. So I figured the next one I might show that on stream. The visuals are pretty cool in the game too. I'm just gonna use some yellow gouache to really kind of bring up some of the glowing area here because I feel like it's not glowing enough. It can always be glowing more. So I think he's looking pretty good. I'm just looking for areas where I still need to kind of add some more highlights and things. And it's pretty cool how you can kind of just build them with gouache. And I think I mentioned this in a previous stream. I used to work in um, marker and colored pencil, but they're both very time consuming and very expensive, especially really good markers. And they're not very portable, which is how I ended up switching to watercolor and digital paint more because of speed, portability, and cost effectiveness. I'd love to do something in marker, but if I'm doing a book that has hundreds of or 50 to 100 illustrations, I may not have the time and I probably won't have the budget for it. I can get a $25 watercolor set and maybe $50 worth of paper and illustrate an entire book for that. So that's a little bit better for what I do. And a lot of that, I talk about this a lot when I talk about Kickstarter and the choices creators make on Kickstarter, on Twitch, on Patreon. But for me, my choices are based on the fact that I want to spend as much time creating as possible. So I want to minimize clerical time and minimize kind of other business things I have to do. So for that, I want to be cost effective so I can put out a lot of books versus doing one big, long, drawn out fancy book a year or something. That would be quite a bit more expensive. That's just been kind of my choice to focus on getting to create as much as possible. uh, so we already put out one book and one big coloring book and then three pocket-sized coloring books this year. And then this book is due to go on Kickstarter on the 15th and get printed and shipped this summer and come out in September. And then I don't know if the third book I have in mind will be out this year or next. Well, I think at least my picture book will be out this year as well. I have a crazy goal of I really want to have created at least 50 books by the time I'm 50. And I don't mean like books I've worked on for other people as well. I've done book covers and I've actually done editing for other folks and adapting for manga and things like that. And I don't really count those because they're not really my books. They're just books I've been hired to contribute something to. So I really want to have done 50 of my books. And I think we will count coloring books in that. So I'm at somewhere around 30-ish, I think, now, if we count coloring books and the little pocket guidebooks that I did. I thought this was going to take me an hour, and I'm spending way longer on it, but I got kind of carried away with his details, so that's okay. He's turning into one of my favorite creatures I've done in a while, so I wanted to do kind of a more unique hellhound, and I think he's coming out pretty good, so. But yeah, my goal is just to be able to put out all the books and projects that I wanted to, and hopefully keep the lights lights on and cats fed while doing so. So most of my business decisions are based on minimizing time I have to deal with shipping and retail things and stuff like that. So I'm not trying to get a ton of people to buy my books. I'm just trying to get enough to keep creating. And then all of my books stay for sale on demand. So even books I don't have in stock anymore, you can usually go buy like my older books on Amazon, and my publisher prints and ships them, and then I get a cut. So it's kind of a good way to hopefully build up a retirement fund. I'm actually trying to get some decent royalties on some of my Kindle books and on some of my paperbacks and hardcovers. So that's good. That's the plan. We hope. But yeah, I don't know how it turned out. Well, this book that this guy's for, the beverage book, is going to be, I think, the 21st book in the series. That's crazy to me. Thought I would just do one book, and then this happened. And I think this painting will probably go to I'll probably go to one of my Patreon subscribers who get one of the small ones every month, because this is a nice small one. So I'm multitasking. I get to do their paintings and then have the art for the book and all that other fun stuff at the same time. And multitasking has really become how I survive as a creator. And I've always been about not putting all of my eggs in one basket, so to speak, so not putting all of my revenue on just Twitch or just Patreon or just Kickstarter or just conventions. And I'm really thankful that last summer I did the move to a bigger online store where I have to pay a fee, but set up a really good online store, because the online store sales have kind of saved me with a lot of the canceled events. So I try to be smart. A lot of it's trial and error. Like, I don't talk to everyone about how much I messed up on things occasionally and thought I had a good idea for a project and nobody really wanted it. Or I had the idea too early. That seems my biggest curse. Like, I'll have an idea and we'll print extra of it, and then it just won't sell, and I'll think, okay, and I'll mark it down, and then like 6 months later everyone's like, we heard you had a fairy oracle deck, now we all want it. I'm like, what? Now you guys want it? Come on. So I don't know if I just have ideas too early sometimes, but I'm pretty excited for some of the projects we have coming up, and some of them are gonna have much more detailed artwork than this. I'm kind of just doing these little guys to fill in the last 10 pages of the new book, but they're pretty simple, and they don't really have backgrounds, which helps. And I was originally thinking I was going to do a dark background so he'd really look like he was glowing, but I don't know if I need to do that or not. I'm kind of debating that point right now, because I don't know if it needs it. Yeah, I think if you're doing creativity for a living, you either have to have an agent or a business manager or somebody who's going to do all of this kind of stuff for you, or you have to spend a lot of time researching and learning and adapting. I think somebody said the key to surviving, while I deal with the kitten, the key to surviving right now as a business, as a small business owner, what you do is basically being able to pivot So switching to online sales, switching to takeout orders, you have to really be able to adapt. And I'd love to say that that's just because of the virus scare, the quarantine, all that, but it's not. Um, when the internet became a big thing, you had to adapt to that. There's just always going to be things. So adaptability as a creator is like the best thing you could do it. Yeah, with cons, you have to be careful. And I used to have that same issue where I would print too much of a print. So my solution for that was two things. First of all, if you do have a presence on Patreon or you can run a Kickstarter, let's say for this book, this is a zoom this back out, 110-page book. So if you assume I have a painting approximately every other page, because there's text and some of them are 2-page spreads, probably doing 50 or 60 paintings for this book. There is no way I could do 5, 10, or even 20 prints of 50 or 60 different paintings for every book I do and take all of those to a convention. Cost aside, it would be ridiculously large. Nobody's going to look through that. Um, and there's always new stuff that you're doing. So, what I'm able to do with both Kickstarter and Patreon, especially Patreon, is the people who subscribe monthly, and I have about 100, a little over 100 people on my Patreon. It's not just that they give me some monthly funds to keep the lights on and all that stuff while I'm working on a book. It's that they give me something that to me is more valuable than money. Well, they give me two things. One is support, and the other is feedback. So I can find out of those 50 or 60 paintings, what are the most popular ones I spent the most time on. They won't even be the ones I like the most. I mean, really early on when I was Twitch streaming in April, I painted a lemon lime griffin, and people are still like, "Who got the original on that? I want that." And I actually think Dragon Soul is still in the chat. He got the original on that. So, but yeah, there was definitely everyone was like, "You are going to do prints of that," and I didn't even think of it because it was like this little painting about the size I'm doing here, and I was just kind of goofing around, and people really liked that painting. So to me, one of the biggest reasons to use Twitch and or Patreon and Kickstarter is to get that feedback. And then as a creator, what I recommend doing if you do generate a good amount of art content is set up to run your own prints. If you run your own prints, then you do not have to order them in bulk, and you can just do one or two of something to take to a convention to test out. And I would say you're looking at an investment in US dollars of $300 to $400 to be able to run prints, counting ink, paper, and the printer. And then after that, oh, and sleeves and backing boards and that stuff if you're going to sell them at conventions versus online. But then after that, it's maybe going to cost you $1, $2 if you occasionally mess one up to run 11 by 17 prints, including a backing board, a bag, everything. So you can sell them pretty affordably. I sell mine for 14 at conventions. So I can bring a variety of stuff, which does help. And then I can print to order for online stuff so I can offer as many options as I want. And one of the things that really helped me out was finding a really good printer for home stuff that is archival quality paper, archival quality ink. And while I use a Canon printer, I do not use Canon brand ink. We did a lot of tests. You have to be really careful about what third-party ink you get. We actually discovered that people preferred the third-party ink in visual tests over the Canon brand ink. And I can get, mine is, I want to say, I used to have I used to have the 8 ink cartridge Canon. Now I use the 5 ink cartridge Canon, which is about $250 to $300. I highly recommend the Canon because if you are printing a lot and then you stop printing for a bit, one of the things that Canon does better than Epson or any of the other brands is that it will wake the ink cartridges back up better. You won't have as many clogs, you won't have as much wasted ink, and Canon printers close up completely when you're not using them to keep dust and pet hair out of them. So I've actually gone through two over the years because I've used so many, and I had like a higher end 8-color one, and then they came out the 5-color ones, and I'm really happy with mine. And to completely do all 5 colors. I can get 3 of each cartridge, so 3 changes of ink for like $30. So it's a really good deal. So yeah, if you ever need that info, you can always drop me an email so that I can just send you an email that says here's the links to what I use. Just because finding the right paper, finding backing boards and stuff can be a pain. But yeah, as soon as I started to have a little more art out, I realized I didn't want to get a lot of the same prints. And the other thing you can do is also find a printer that will do smaller run prints or a variety of prints. We have, and you can probably still order from them even from the East Coast. We have Artist Express in Phoenix, which is about 2 hours from me, and they're run by artists. So if their bulk rates are like for, say, you get a discount if you get 50 prints, you can mix as many designs as you want in those 50. You can get 5 or 10 different pictures and just get a total of 50, and you still get the discount because it's run by artists who are specifically marketing towards folks stocking for conventions. So if you can find a business like that near you or just order from them, that might be a good way to start out. But yeah, you can't stock like 20 or 30 of a print because you end up with them. I still have stuff from like 10 years ago when I was getting too many prints done, because what you put the time in on or what you like the most or what you think people will like, it'll be something totally random. We used to joke the only rule about vending as an artist at conventions is that there are no rules because they're going to change. They're going to change right out from under you and you're going to get really confused. So, um, and yeah, I've also done all the like research for what's the best online store options dependent on your needs. Yeah, and stuff like that. So what you can do if you have an overstock of a specific print or a product, this is what I've learned to do, is you can pick like a holiday or a season. Like I did, I'm running a summer sale right now on my site, and you can say for every X number of dollars that you spend on artwork on the site, on prints or whatever, so that you're mailing a similar sort of thing, you'll get a free print, and then you can unload off those ones that you have uh, stocked up as, yeah, say giveaway or sales, because then people are getting a good deal and you're also not just throwing away prints. So, and if you get rid of all of them, what'll happen is like 2 months later, somebody will want one. Like, my friend got this print from you and I love it, and why don't you have it anymore? It's like the Murphy's Law of of art. But yeah, there's actually a lot more options now for short run prints. Um, the other place I recommend if you're looking to get like small postcard prints and stuff done is Got Print. I believe they have like an East Coast office as well. I usually get stuff and they ship it either from the California or the Texas one here to me in Arizona. But Got Print will do like 100 bookmarks or 100 postcards, and they're very reasonable in price. You might spend like $20, and they have very good quality for like color matching, which matters. It matters a lot if you're doing art that you want that color matching. So yeah, I actually have a list in the frequently asked questions on my website, which is raredragons.com. Under like the about or info section, there's frequently asked questions. I list a lot of the print shops that I work with, just because people ask me a lot. They're like, "What do you use for this? Who prints your playing cards, or what brand of?" So I just put them all up there because I'm not somebody who's going to keep that a secret. I want to share that information if I can, because I know it's such a pain figuring that out. And of course, everybody has different needs too. What might work for me might not work for you, but I think information is power. So the more that you have, the more informed decisions you're able to make. So yeah, if you have questions about those, if you have questions about like presses for buttons or things like that, I've done a lot of stuff. I do a lot of weird swag for my Patreon subscribers every month. So, and actually we're doing both kind of, I'm making coasters, but they're like just it's going to be artwork that's printed. And there's a way I have a machine that'll make them as a coaster. But then I'm also doing hand painted coasters or hand drawn coasters in ink that I'm sealing with. I'm drawing on wood. I did a test and it does work. I'm drawing on wood. Um, and using a little shading, and then I'm sealing them with like a polyurethane varnish, and I'm doing like a really thick coat or two of it, so people actually would use them. And then I have cork backing, so you actually get like a wooden one of a kind coaster if you go for the higher pledge levels on the Kickstarter we have starting, because I figure it's a beverage themed book, so coasters are important. Um, but yeah, a lot of the stuff I do, there's a ton of like research and even like getting coaster materials and testing them to make sure you can set a glass on one of them and it won't destroy my drawing and stuff like that. I feel like I spend a lot of time doing that. So I'm always happy to help folks if they send me like a nice message and ask. Um, I'm less likely to help folks who just want shortcuts, I guess is the best way to phrase it. A friend of mine once posted that if someone is really talented and they want help getting started with their career as an artist or a writer, he is more than happy to help. But if they don't put any effort in, he's just going to walk away. But if someone doesn't have that much talent and they are like passionate and willing to work and work and work at it, he will be there for them every single day. And I kind of feel the same way. There are definitely people who are artistically talented, but when it comes to the business side, they don't want to put the work in to do it as a business, which is fine. Um, it only bothers me if they then tell me I'm lucky that I can do this, and I'm like, oh no, this is not luck. This is hard work. Lots of hard work. And oftentimes, like a project won't do as well as I expect, or will do better than I expect. You don't know, so it's definitely a stressful a stressful journey. Um, but it's also been a really cool journey. I've gotten to have some amazing fans. There's a super amazing gal who's been from New Jersey who's been backing my Kickstarter since almost might possibly the beginning. I know since really early on. So going back 7 or 8 years. And she's also a subscriber. She gets a painting this size every month on my Patreon. So I'm very thankful for that. But beyond that, when my dog died, she sent me a really nice card in the mail. Like she saved my address, my return address off a shipment I'd sent her, and just sent me a really nice card. And it wasn't over the top. It was just a nice, thoughtful card. Um, and she sends me weird holiday gifts every year, which I love. She sometimes sends me birthday presents or Christmas presents, or well, I don't really do Christmas, but general holiday gifts. Yeah, they're really really sweet. I got a cool necklace from her. I've gotten. I mean, they're not creepy in any way. Like I've definitely had the stalker level of people on occasion too. It's very rare, but I know what to watch for. But she's really sweet. She sent me a couple of scarves that I really like, and they're really lightweight scarves since it's hot out here a lot of the time. But in the winter, you sometimes need like a mid-weight thing. So she sent me some that are just beautiful, and I love them. So I'm always kind of pleasantly surprised. I tend to forget about it, and then I get a package in the mail, and I'm like, oh, that's so nice. And those are the people that like make the experience of doing art this way, I think, so rewarding, because you get that kind of connection with them. And some of the kids and families, the kids are really cool, who like my stuff. One mom told me her three sons randomly pick pages from my books and then pretend to be the creatures on them and fight each other, which is pretty crazy. So, yeah, I never kind of expected that to happen. So I think that's been a really really cool experience. All right, I think I probably highlighted the heck out of this guy. Just trying to make sure it's pretty balanced here. Give him a couple little highlights here. And I actually realized I didn't carry the glow that I was painting. I didn't get it around his tail. I don't know what I was thinking. But yeah, I think that like when stuff's hard, you could focus on like being sick and things being scary and riots, or you can focus on the things that you're lucky to have in your life. And I've been trying to focus on those things. And I don't have millions of fans. I don't even know if I have. Well, on Facebook I have thousands, but it's not a lot. Um, Compared to like authors I met who are on the New York Times bestseller list and things like that. But I'm very thankful for the ones that I have because they're, for the most part, really sweet people. And had an interesting experience here on Twitch when I did stream a game, though, when I streamed Sims. I feel like people definitely, I don't know if I would call it trolling, but they're definitely behave differently towards female gamers than they would to like an artist or a male gamer. And I used to be a female tabletop gamer. I used to play Magic the Gathering in my teens and somewhat in my 20s, and this kind of reminded me of it. I had somebody in my stream who I felt was being, I'm not quite sure of the right way to phrase it. I guess condescending maybe is the only way I know how to say it. But see, like it starts out that way. Someone just recognizes you at another event, and then you do it for 20 years, and then you get recognized at coffee shops or weird places, and it gets very strange. Because yeah, I have that happen. I got the weirdest place I've ever been recognized was when we took our youngest cat to get fixed last fall. We had to go to like the Humane Society at like 7 in the morning and drop her off to get fixed. And the gal checking us in at the desk was like, "You write books about dragons, don't you? I think I have all your books, and I usually see you at Festival of Books every year." And I was like, "Well, that's weird." And I think I felt really awkward about it because I usually dress up a little bit for events, and this is like 7 a.m. without any coffee, so I was kind of dead looking. I was not the most presentable looking, cool looking author artist person, but I thought that there's my black. I thought that was kind of cool. Is it the weirdest place I've ever been recognized? But I don't know. I know people who do Twitch streaming or do art or books, and a lot of their focus is on like, I'm gonna be an artist and I'm gonna be an author and I'm going to be famous. And I've never thought of it that way. I don't even think I'm going to be an author or an artist. I just want to make things. Like, that's always been my thing. I want to make books. And this happens to be the path that I found to make them. And I'm very, very thankful for it. So I'm using black gouache. I'm going to see if I can make my cool, weird border here real quick. We'll see if this will work. I feel like it's going to be pretty fast if I do it in gouache, but we'll see. I want him to look like he's glowing, which is why I put all this nice light greens and blues around him to start with. But yeah, when I first started vending at conventions, it wasn't like to make a living or anything. It was just I enjoyed sharing my art with people, and it basically helped cover some of the cost. And I don't know, I just kind of enjoyed the experience. And conventions were like a huge escape from me, for me from my family and some life stuff that wasn't so good. And now I don't do as many because my life's pretty good. Oh, thank you for the sub. And how's it going with getting your stream set up? Has that happened yet? Because I know you were talking about it, and I'm very interested. Hey, look, he's gonna be all cool and creepy looking. Hopefully, when this is all painted in. So I feel like we gotta paint some of this in darker. And I feel like the community here on Twitch has been so nice and friendly too. For at least in the arts community, it was a little, like I said, it was a little weird experience streaming gaming, and I held my temper. I did good. But he sent me a friend request, and I turned it down. Then I saw he's not following me anymore, and I'm like, that's fine. That's fine. But there's a lot of times when I've been in events in like bigger cities, LA, and some of those places where artists and creators can get kind of snotty and competitive, and I feel like Twitch is kind of the best of things, of creators, like how supportive we all are of each other, and kind of how kind we are and inspiring, and everybody kind of trying to create positivity out there. I think I mentioned earlier on, I got really inspired by my local DJs who were streaming. They're kind of the reason I ended up doing this. They really encouraged me to be gutsy enough to start streaming. I was definitely a bit shy about it. I didn't think people would find it that interesting, honestly. But yeah, it's been really cool getting to like just talk to people. And then I never would have thought even like 2 months ago that I ended up doing what we do on Wednesday nights, which is just which isn't a creative. Well, it is sort of a creative night, but it's just we just talk about magic and creativity and things related to usually like we've started doing themes. So I was really sad I had to push it down. I had to like basically push all the events down a week because I was sick and I didn't really want to. I didn't feel like that was cool to stream that night sick last week, so we skipped that Wednesday. But we're doing yeah, getting a clamp can be awkward, and I've rearranged things twice, so I fully understand that. And a lot of stuff got back ordered because so many people were working from home and needed like cameras and clamps and things. But yeah, I think this Wednesday we are doing Egyptian myths and magic. So I guess I'm getting in the mood by painting an Egyptian inspired hellhound here. So we're going to be talking about like real archaeology related to ancient Egypt, which is actually one of my early passions. I started to go to school for archaeology and then ended up doing this instead. So I have a lot of books. I actually have. I'm gonna find it to show on stream. I have the actual Egyptian Book of the Dead, the one that they used to summon the mummy in the Mummy. But of course, it doesn't summon mummies at all. It's not terrifying in the least. But I have that. I'm gonna show and some figurines and some oracle decks, and we're going to talk about myth and folklore and modern day neo pagans who use the Egyptian pantheon and all kinds of fun things. And then the week after that, I'm very excited about um, because we are doing vampires and werewolves. And it was funny because I didn't really think I was an expert on them until I started like talking about all of the different things I've researched and fiction and nonfiction books I've read, and I realized I know a remarkably large number of fiction and nonfiction series about werewolves and vampires and different folklores and ones like I even have a vampire series I'm going to recommend reading that integrates um, real genetics and Native American mythology and Wicca and has its own matching oracle deck. So I'm kind of excited. I'm going to do that one for the vampire one. So yeah, I guess I was recommending so much stuff in streams. People were like, "You should just do a night talking about that." And I was like, "People are really interested in that." So the last one I did before I got sick, we did on runes, and I got to do rune readings for people. So that was pretty fun. So it was kind of funny because people kept asking kind of questions about choices they had to make in their lives, and everybody kept getting the same answers, which was just get out of your own way, and you're having stuff get in your own way to, and you're not able to like figure out what's going on until you get it out of your own way. But yeah, I do a ton of research for all of the creatures in my books. So this guy, before I even drew him out, I went back to my older Hellhound research and looked at that, and then I was looking at Egyptian dog breeds, and then because I want to tie whiskey into his folklore, I was looking at Egyptian brands of whiskey to make sure there are indeed Egyptian whiskeys, which there are. Um, so that was all pretty fun to read about. Because this guy is very much going to tie into whiskey and into the expression the hair of the dog, which is an expression about when you're really hungover from drinking too much instead of sobering up and dealing with it where you drink a little more alcohol to take the edge off. So I was like, it could be the hair of the dog as in reference to a Egyptian hellhound, right? I could totally make up some lore about that. So well, I do make up a lot of stuff for my books. A lot of it is tied into real research and mythology and folklore and things about alcohol and science and whatever it is I'm theming the book to, which is really fun. A friend of mine who's an amazing writer, she says that writers are serial hobbyists. So we generally pick things for our books so that we have an excuse to learn about them or try them out or expand our knowledge. So at least for me, that's true. I'm like really curious about all sorts of things. So if I get the chance to kind of work it into a project, like I knew I'd been reading runes for years before I did my Rune Dragons project, and I still learned a lot more working on that project because I really expanded beyond, like I knew Scandinavian runes very well, but I didn't know Anglo-Saxon runes as well, and I learned a lot more about the evolution of runes as they traveled across Europe. And so then I get to talk about that last week. Wait, 2 weeks ago because I was sick last week. But yeah, so it's been a really cool experience getting to do that, and I tend to really pick projects that I'm passionate about that way, so that I am doing work with painting and even clerical work and shipping and research and doing all the writing, like it's stuff that I'm going to be passionate about doing because I'm really interested in it. So I think it makes what I'm creating also a bit more genuine, um, than if I were randomly picking things based upon what I thought would sell. I've heard people ask that at conventions. They'll ask writers, like, how do you know what will sell? And the writers are like, yeah, by the time you get a book out, it won't even be popular anymore, whatever it was. You got to write or paint or tell the stories that matter to you. And, maybe you'll be the next big trend. Who knows? But you can't base what you do around how many people are going to like what you do on Facebook or watch you paint on Twitch, because you just end up driving yourself nuts and always trying to make other people happy. And I've just started doing commissions again, but the commissions that I'm doing are very much like, I think my website even says they have to be in line with the type of work that I do. So, creatures, and I'll do fan art if it's for personal stuff, but it still has to kind of be more unique fan art. I'm doing a whole series of characters for a gal in England this summer. I'm very excited about that. And some of them are Sailor Scouts, like from Sailor Moon, but they are her own versions and they are inspired by different mythologies. So I get to do an Egyptian one, and I'm so excited about that because the goddess that she is for inspiration is actually one of the first things I drew at like age 10. So I'm like, I totally know how to draw this character. This is gonna be fun. So I feel like if you kind of put those boundaries for yourself as a creator of like what you're willing to do, you need them for your own sanity, and your own integrity. But then also if you really kind of just list them up front on a website, or when people ask you things, it does make it easier to kind of do jobs that you're going to be good at and that you're going to be passionate about. Because I've done things where I've taken jobs just for the money when I was younger, and they did not end up well. I've never like backed out of a project unless it was in the contract that I was allowed to, and I was really uncomfortable with something about it. But I've never just like walked away and been unprofessional. I've always handled things as professionally as possible. But there have definitely been projects that got very tedious, and that I don't show in a portfolio because I don't want to get other projects like those. So, and I had some really cool learning experiences when I was in my late teens and early 20s. I did illustrations for a Hitchcock themed fiction magazine. So I did a lot of like noir art, and it was all black and white. So I had to learn to work a lot in black and white, either in ink or digitally, and work pretty quickly because they were just little pictures, and I wasn't going to get paid more than 10 or 15 bucks a picture. So it was a learning experience. But I got to do a lot of corpses and things. People look at my art and they're like, "Oh, your art's so cute." And I'm like, "Yeah, you have no idea what I've done in the past." But like those sorts of things, I'm really glad that I did them because I learned so much about what you have to have in contracts and all those sorts of things. And I think if you have, like, our science fiction fantasy convention here is very much industry driven. It's all filmmakers and writers and artists kind of talking about what we do, so that if you have questions about things like contracts or Kickstarters or finding a publisher, that's those sorts of events are like the best places to get that advice, and people are there to talk about it, so they will be happy to do so. And I'm usually happy to give people info if they email me, as long as they're polite about it. Like I said, I've had my share of like really weird, rude emails. That's for sure. But I think if you have any presence on the internet, that happens to you. Um, I've had some just weird ones. So the person on my stream the other day said that he really liked to support little streamers, which I'm not sure is the nicest thing to say to a streamer, but okay. And he tipped me one whole bit, which, I mean, everything helps, but I was like, all right. And then I checked, and he actually only has about twice the number of followers I have. So like 200, and I have 100. Like it's not. It wasn't like he was this like giant streamer with tons of experience. I was like, wait a minute. Which is a totally different attitude from like somebody like Cassie, who has many followers and many more people, and is still just so just like down to earth and personal when she talks to people about streaming. There we go. So I guess this is one of the few cases where I'm actually doing a darker watercolor background. I wonder if I want to introduce any other colors or if we're just going to call him done-ish. He ended up kind of scary, which I think is cool. I could show you guys some of the other remaining art I'm going to be finishing up for the book. I'm glad I decided to stream tonight. I was really iffy on it because I still have, you hear me sniffling, I still have allergies. It's like my allergies are finally going away, and then Arizona caught fire in like way too many places. We didn't have fires like this on the East Coast where I grew up, and we had other issues, but you know, it's much wetter, and we didn't have dry seasons that were quite like this. I mean, the humidity sucks there, so it's a balance. But I had to get used to being out here. Like you'll get just fires that burn thousands of acres, which is crazy. So I don't really see the smoke in town, but you could tell like the air is not not at its normal quality. All right, I think we could call our Hellhound done. What do you guys think? Let me show you guys some of the other ones I'm working on. There's 5 total, and this is one of them. So the other one that I showed a little bit earlier, this is the drunken dwarf with his ale. He's going to be an ale dwarf. And then, because I feel like I had to have at least one in there. So I was looking up pink elephants because there's this whole thing where, but you've ever seen the movie Dumbo where you see pink elephants when you're drunk, and I checked, and it is a folklore and just sort of urban legend thing that goes way back to like the late 1800s, early 1900s. So I wanted to do like a weird pink elephant sort of critter. So this is going to be that creature. And my idea was that maybe these guys exist in another dimension that you only see if you've had enough alcohol. So I think I might paint this guy on stream at some point because I feel like he's going to be really fun. So when I was reading about that, I found out that there's 2 things people are supposed to see. One are pink elephants, and the other are blue mice. So I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I took the blue mice concept and combined it with the idea of seeing double? So this is going to be the blue mouse creature that crashes wine and cheese parties. I've way too much fun with this. And then I have some that aren't quite as finished. This one's just in really rough form. There's going to be a satyr under a tree. I don't know how you guys see that because they're really known for drinking wine. And then this is the guy I was talking about earlier, where they're kind of like leprechauns. They're often confused with them, but they're like an Irish critter. They're called, oh gosh, it's like with a C, like Clubbercons, Schubercons, something like that. I'll have to double check. But they get very tipsy, and they're drawn in a number of different sizes. So I put mine on a barrel of booze, getting tipsy. So he's gonna be fun. He's gonna probably have the either white or red hair because they do look a lot like leprechauns. And then my last creature is one of my own creation, and this is again like really early in the ink stages. This is the Fizzle Guzzler. So it is a dragon that just goes after fizzy drinks, like sodas, champagne, things like that. Like he's just drawn to all of the bubbles. So those are like the ones that I have left, and then the book is done. So I'm kind of excited about that. We're already actually working on art for my next 2 books, but because you have to work really far ahead, which is nuts because you don't even get to know what people think of books that have just come out because you're already working on other ones. But I'm really looking forward to doing some of those, and I definitely want to do at least some of them on stream. I think they'll be really fun. I think the pink elephant would be fun to do on stream, but I wanted to take the ideas of like sayings revolving sayings revolving around being drunk or related to alcohol and kind of mix them together. So like this guy, I like the idea of when I was trying to come up with what creature would be for whiskey, we were kind of thinking it'd be like a wolf or a dog, and then I was like, ooh, I can make it a whiskey hellhound, and then I thought they'd giving him wings, and my boyfriend was like, well, that's hair of the dog for you, and I was like, oh, now I gotta mix that in some way. So I wanted to mix that, and then with like the things you see when you're drunk, I really wanted to kind of maybe build some sort of mythology related to there being a dimension you can only see into if you are really drunk, and then you can see these creatures like blue mice and pink elephants. And I thought it was cool when I was researching pink elephants that I didn't know about the blue mice. I guess that one's not as famous, at least over time isn't as famous as the pink elephants. So I put a lot of coffee and tea creatures and juice drinking creatures in the book already, so I kind of felt like we needed to flesh it out with a little bit more related to whiskey and wine and things like that. So, and then what happens is they get scanned, and the book layout's really cool. It all looks like an old scrapbook that has been stained and beat up and torn. So, I'm having a lot of fun doing the layouts. And then the actual text about each creature looks like it kind of looks like a little note card, kind of like attached to each page. So I've previewed some of that for my Patreon subscribers, and they really like it. So that's always good when you have that, and you can say, what do you guys like? What do you not like? Is this a good idea or a bad idea? And we're doing a little bit of something different with this book, which is every book I've kind of done in the past, I've done on the same type of paper, whether it's hardcover or paperback. And we were experimenting with doing kind of these art print books on better paper because they were much shorter books, so I could do that. There were collections of art prints, and I really liked the higher end paper and print quality. So for this book, I'm doing the paperback on like the traditional sort of standard paper, which is it's nice. But I'm doing the hardcover on the really nice high quality paper with the higher quality printing, so that if you invest in a hardcover, you're going to get something that's like really really special. So I'm very excited for that because I haven't gotten to do like a whole big book on one of those yet. So um, I'm kind of nerdily excited. And you'd think after all the books I'd done, I was talking to Melissa Colburn about this on her Facebook, that like it doesn't matter if you have an entire series of books out. When that book proof shows up, or your copies you're going to sell, or your author copies, whatever, which when they show up and you're holding the finished physical book, you can have done 20 books before that. You can have done 30 books before that. When that book shows up, I still tear up. I'm like a big baby about it, and I get all teary eyed and stuff. But yeah, I feel like I really wish there was a sculpture of this guy now. I'd like to kind of see him as like a 3D creepy critter. He turned out pretty good. So thank you guys for tuning in. I think I should check. I think see if she's doing this yet. I'm gonna check. I was trying to see if Vamp is gonna stream tonight, because she usually starts at 7 and it's 6:58. So if she is, then I can tell you guys to all go over there and listen to her awesome tunes. I could just see if she posted about it too. And I don't think I would have kept my sanity during all the craziness in the world were it not for the awesome DJs. I got to hear all my local ones and get to know them better online, but then also found a couple of DJs from other places. One of our local DJs ended up doing a bunch of stuff for with a kind of a group of DJs online in Palm Springs, and that made me find those DJs. So it's been like a really cool way to stay sane. And let's see, is Is there like an events thing? Of course there's not. Every time I go to look stuff up, I'm like, why can I not? Okay. Yes. Okay, let's see. I don't know if there's one tonight though. It's called Club Nocturne Feline, and she usually does it on Mondays. So hopefully, hopefully she will do that. So if you guys want to check that out, her Twitch name is Bamp Feline, one word, and she is really awesome. I don't see her online yet, but she probably will be, and she has a cat cam that she does. She's kind of, it depends what kind of mood she's feeling in for the tunes, but it's usually like a pretty good mix of more mellow stuff and maybe some faster stuff. Making sure we get this guy on here. But did anybody have any questions or comments? Because I'm gonna wrap up pretty soon. I try not to run into their streams. I was gonna see if we could raid her, but it doesn't look like sometimes she doesn't start right away. So, but thank you guys for tuning in and hanging out and keeping me company when I'm still a little sniffly from allergies. And I will hopefully be back streaming a bunch more, doing a lot more art, and I will definitely be here on Wednesday at 7, which is, or sorry, at 6. You'd think I'd remember this. Well, we usually go 6 to 7, but sometimes I go closer to going all the way to 8 if enough people have stuff they want to talk about. And we'll be talking about Egyptian myth and magic, and that is 6 Mountain Standard Time. So I believe we're 3 hours behind the East Coast right now. So it's only 7 here now, which is kind of confusing, but a lot of Twitch stuff. But thank you guys for hanging out, and stay safe, and don't mess with hellhounds. Don't forget to wash your hands. Stay positive. And if you guys have any questions at all about any of the stuff I've talked about, materials or classes or how to make your own art prints or running Kickstarters or Patreons or whatever, feel free to hit me up on Discord or send me an email. All that stuff's on my website as well as on my Twitch page. My website is raredragons.com, and you can always ask me questions. I am happy to answer. Email is the best way to do it if you have a bunch of questions, because then I can take my time and get you a really concise answer back. So thank you for hanging out. Be safe. Try to be positive and inspired and put some good vibes out there, because right now I think the world needs those. And have a really good night.